So we meet again late this Wednesday evening. And normally this is the point when I would introduce whatever game was on the screen, but I really don't know what game is going to be on the screen tonight. I have not yet recorded it. I was going to bring you some Total Annihilation gameplay here in the background, and I was prepared for a battle against the Red forces, but little did I know the Black Army had crept up along the northern coast of that continent, and they took them out before I could get there. So I ended up using my army to take out the black ships, and that didn't take very long. So I thought it would just be more a bit boring gameplay to use, and I'll probably use Crash Bandicoot or something like that. Maybe Donkey Kong Country, who knows. But anyway, today's video is just talking about anything that's relatively worth talking about here in the past few days that's happened. And it might be quite a long video, I don't really know. We're going to talk about the future of console exclusives and whether or not they're still relevant, and some problems Microsoft has been facing as of late with work that's been going on the next Xbox. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Illumiroom, and then a little bit more about the Wii U. The Wii U has reportedly been hacked, and we're going to discuss whether or not this is going to affect its success. And then a couple rumors about Call of Duty Ghost and Grand Theft Auto 5 and which platforms those games will release on. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to go over. And now, the first thing that we're going to discuss is the exclusives. And exclusives today are just as important as they always were. When people point to the number of multi-platform releases and claim that the importance of exclusives is fading, they're generally talking about the second-party exclusive games, although the term second-party exclusive is a little confusing since some games developed by an independent studio are published by Microsoft or a Sony or a Nintendo, which technically makes them first-party games. Anyway, we see less of these games as a result of two things: rising development costs and less separation between console sales numbers. And if we want to go all the way back to the 16-bit days, we see less second-party exclusives than we saw in the 32-bit or 64-bit, or, well, I guess you would call it a 64-bit days, the PlayStation 2 and GameCube and Xbox era. And that is because the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2 were quite a bit more dominant than the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis. Those were pretty evenly split up until the end there. And that's come full circle today with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 running neck to neck in terms of global sales. Now, the rising development cost, that's made it more difficult for studios to justify entering into an exclusive deal with either Sony or Microsoft, especially when the customer base is so evenly split between those platforms. Now, if Sony or Microsoft wanted to sign anyone to an exclusivity agreement, they'd have to pay more than it's worth due to the cost of developing the game and the fact that developer is losing out on 50% of the game's potential sales. And this is the reason that we see more second-party exclusive games and DLC for Xbox Live and PSN as well, since the development costs can be kept low enough to allow for a healthy profit from single-platform sales. Plus, they get the money from Sony or Microsoft. And that's especially true if it's a timed release. For instance, Microsoft paid Rockstar $50 million for timed exclusivity of Grand Theft Auto 4's The Lost and the Damned DLC. And Rockstar may have lost a few sales from the PlayStation 3 owners who just simply moved on and forgot about it, but they gained $50 million. I honestly don't see what Microsoft got out of that deal, other than just pissing away $50 million. But all that being said, first-party exclusives are still hugely important. Over the past 3 to 4 years, Microsoft hasn't really felt the need to release too many exclusives, and has lost several second-party exclusives to Sony, as Sony's managed to shrink the gap between Xbox and PlayStation 3 sales. And yet Microsoft has managed to come out ahead, mostly due to the fact that success breeds success, and early success they achieved bred more success, as we were pretty much locked into an 8-year console generation with no end in sight, and people wanted to buy what their friends had. And this all gets reset in the next generation, and exclusives will become more of a deciding factor, especially within the first couple of years of adoption. Microsoft may have shot themselves in the foot by not developing more of a reputation for bringing us exclusives, and they may be relying a bit too heavily on locking customers into their Xbox Live and the Xbox Live ecosystem with the next Xbox's rumored compatibility with existing Xbox Live arcade titles. And I think we all understand that Nintendo lives and dies by its exclusives, so their exclusives are incredibly important. And they probably always will be. And continuing on, we're going to go ahead and kick Microsoft around a little bit more. We just kind of knocked them down there. Just knocked them in the dirt. Now we're going to kick them in the ribs. And we're going to talk about the setbacks that they're rumored to be facing with the titles in the launch window for the next machine. I said in a comment the other day that this wasn't terribly interesting news, and I stand by that, but nonetheless, I thought I would toss this in here just to give my perspective on where Microsoft stands. I'm not really surprised by this rumor, since Microsoft is seemingly being dragged into the next generation kicking and screaming. It's like they just don't want to release a new machine. I doubt they had planned on showing anything really before E3, and when Sony came out with the PS4 event, that left Microsoft kind of scrambling to show something before E3 as well. And at this point, I don't even think it makes much sense for them to announce anything before E3 unless they just have so much to show that it wouldn't fit into an E3 press conference. Sony played it smart by capturing probably 90% of the hype leading up to E3. So even if Microsoft retakes the buzz, it will be short-lived with just 2 weeks remaining before E3 when Sony has a chance to steal it right back. And Microsoft feeling the pressure to announce something of substance probably put them behind and left them trying to throw something together for the May 21st event. And 2 weeks before E3 was the soonest they could have something ready to show us. As far as the canceled projects, I mentioned in a comment that it wasn't even clear that they were games rather than features, but after reading several more articles, the consensus generally seems to be that they were indeed games, one of which I would speculate was Obsidian's project North Carolina, which was published by Microsoft, or was to be published by Microsoft, which we found out last month that it was canceled. And for what it's worth, it doesn't exactly build confidence in Microsoft, even if the rumor is true that they've secured an exclusive title from Respawn Entertainment, because paying for exclusivity is not a viable option over the lifetime of the platform, as we just talked about. And it's a viable option within the launch window, because we know that Microsoft is willing to spend some money to have a successful launch. I think any hardware manufacturer would be. But over the lifetime of the platform, I think they're going to be less likely to keep spending that money, and it's just going to be less viable to do, because you can't just keep pissing money away. And also, apparently, Illumiroom will not come to fruition on the next Xbox anytime soon, if at all. As a researcher who has collaborated on the project claims that the mention of the next generation consoles was not a specific reference to the next Xbox, but, quote, 5 to 10 years down the road. And this likely busts the rumor that the next Xbox version of Watch Dogs will support Illumiroom. The impression I get is that we'll probably see Illumiroom on the next Xbox within a few years, probably sooner than 5, perhaps bundled with the machine in the future to add value without having to drop the price, much like the Kinect was able to do more recently. And since if I understand correctly how Illumiroom works, you'll also need a small projector that the Kinect sensor can talk to after itself scanning the room to determine how to tell the projector to best project the images and effects. And the last thing that we have here on the docket is there's just a few short items, starting with the Wii U. And one group claims to have hacked the machine. And is this bad news for Nintendo? And I know some people have been saying that it is bad news for Nintendo. And I don't really see how it could be good news. But it is largely, in my opinion at least, irrelevant news. Things are going to be hacked. That's just the way it is. People who are going to buy games are always going to buy games. And people who pirate games are always going to pirate games. That's just what they do. The worst effect it could have is allowing people to cheat online. However, the Wii U barely has an online community to begin with, so irrelevant. And some Wii U fans are apparently upset that the next Call of Duty game hasn't been officially announced for their console yet, in spite of announcements for nearly every other console under the sun. But really, come on guys, it's Call of Duty. I think there was even a version for the Nokia N-Gage at one point. There's about a 99.9% chance you're going to get this game. And Call of Duty is basically the NBA Jam of this generation. I mean, it's just on every fucking platform under the sun. And until it starts losing money, I don't expect that to stop. And finally, rumors claim that GTA 5 will release on the next Xbox and PlayStation 4. And I think a little rumor busting is in order here as well. There's no way GTA 5 is coming to next generation console. No way whatsoever. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Why would Rockstar do that? How many people who own PlayStation 4 or the next Xbox within the launch window will also don't own a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360? And the answer is virtually none. Everyone who wants the game already has a console to play it on, and Rockstar would just be spending more to port the game without gaining any potential customer. Because remember, this is not a game like Watch Dogs that needs as many platforms as it can find to garner an audience. This is Grand Theft Auto. I mean, you're either getting it or you're not. You already know what you want to do. You're not going to skip it because new consoles will be out shortly after its release. I mean, they could release it 3 months after the new consoles came out and still be fine. They'd stand to gain more if they ported it to the Wii U. And I don't see that happening. Really, I would give it 80% odds on coming to the PC, probably 10% to the Wii U, and 5% odds to the next PlayStation 4 and the next Xbox. And that about wraps it up. That's everything that I've had to talk about here today. And unless something interesting happens, I'll probably see you again Friday or Saturday. Because, I mean, there's only so many things that you can talk about on these YouTube videos. So something interesting needs to happen, or I need to have an idea, a creative idea. But, so I'll be back Friday, Saturday, until we meet again.